Good evening and welcome to my channel. Camille DeVille here. As some of you already know, I do nails. I'm a nail artist. And doing that, I hear crazy stories. You name it, I think I've heard it. But there's one story that sticks out to me from, over a decade ago. And that's the story I want to share with y'all because it has really stuck with me. So I do want to share this information with you guys because the details of the case are so insane and so sad. But please know I have done my research to get all of the facts straight. After the salon clients who initially told me this story, who are also crime scene investigators, couldn't get it out of my head. My mom couldn't get it out of her head. She even went for her first time to front sight gun training and got certifications, purchased her own weapon just to protect our families, God forbid, that anything ever like this happened to us. I'm not saying one way or another that it could have been avoided, but I felt good about that. We'll go into that another time. That's where I heard the story, so let's get into it. So once I decided to cover this case as the first case I'm covering, I reached out to that client from years and years ago, and I was like, hey, can I get some names, some more information? She didn't really know much. She did confirm some details that I remembered, so I was like, okay, I can Google that, and then I just deep dived. Let me tell you, it's not pretty, but I do want to share a quote direct from her text. Everyone will be confidential in this case that has helped me along. Here's the text, y'all. Here we go. She said, quote unquote, I know the investigators that worked this case, and it is not something they are willing to talk about. It really them up. It's very rare to have a case that bothers you. This one, they all want to forget about. Let's let that sink in, okay? These crime scene investigators do this as their job. Day in, day out, they see the craziest stuff. And while we might be true crime fans here, to be on the scene every day, seeing the worst of the worst, and then this case is something that they collectively, all of them, do not want to talk about, want to forget, then it must have been pretty crazy. I have to say, so grateful to people in that line of work because it's one thing from our standpoint to hear about it, learn about it, and remember the families, but to be there, the courage, the strength it takes to take on that job every day, I just bless their hearts because we need them. And I don't know. I mean, sometimes in your head, oh, I could do that, but maybe you couldn't. So I really, really appreciate all their hard work. And I just want to say shout out to all of them. I know, well, I don't even know, but it must have been absolutely horrific. And we, as a community, as a nation, appreciate everything you did because it did bring justice in the end. Okay, so we are taking all of our background story and our information directly from the opening statements for most of this video. On the morning of April 16th, 2012, 9-year-old Christopher Martinez walked himself to school. His teacher noticed he was crying in the line as they all lined up to get ready for their day and gear up to go to class. So she asked him, are you okay? And he says, in tears, no, my mom and my sister were murdered. I can't imagine what she must have been thinking. Absolute shock. And bless his heart, he must have been shocked. But anyhow, so she takes immediate action. She takes him to the office, gets her class taken care of, and I imagine they called the police around this time. So when questioned, Christopher did say that he woke up Sunday morning, April 15th. I'm just checking my notes here. But yes, so when questioned, Christopher did state that he woke up the morning, Sunday, April 15th of 2012, to find his father, Arturo, bleeding, holes in the head, stumbling around the house. He also discovered his sweet mama had been murdered, okay? Then he decides to go tell his 10-year-old sister. The adults are incapacitated and one's not even living anymore. So he goes to tell her, finds her in the exact same way that he found his own mommy. I do want to add that Christopher did state to the police that the family dynamics were okay. And even the night prior, they had spent that evening till the late hours of the night, got home around midnight, watching boxing on TV with their family friends. Devastatingly, this would be the last time the boys would see their mother and sister alive. So Christopher and his younger brother stayed home all of Sunday. So this happens Saturday night, well, the wee hours of Sunday morning. So Christopher and his brother, his younger brother, did stay home all of Sunday. Now, Christopher discovered his family in the positions they were in on Sunday morning when he awoke. I'm not super clear why the police weren't called or if a phone was available to him, but him and his little brother spent an entire day in around the carnage of what had happened to their family. It's just unimaginable, but they did until the next day, as I said, when Christopher did go to school and did report what had happened. I can't imagine being that age and knowing what to do. Like, basic stuff is taught to us, but who expects to actually live that? So mom's dead and sister's dead, but dad's alive, but he's not okay. Okay, he's stumbling, he's hugging on his boys, he's giving them some love, but he is all bashed up himself. So like, I don't know what the kid was thinking. He's a child, and no child should have to go through that. No one should have to go through that, but I just want to put that out there that it was reported as soon as he was around adults, responsible adults. When police arrived to the Martinez residence, they could see through the front window a body of a female from the waist down and blood around that area. That would later be found as Ignacia Martinez's body. She also goes by Yardy. From another window, they could actually see little Alejandro, which would be the 4-year-old sibling brother of Christopher and Carla. The police tried to coerce him, we're gonna help, something along those lines. And he ran further into the home, okay? He's scared, he's so young. I again, can't even imagine. So police are still looking at the home from the outside, and finally, Arturo Martinez, the father of these 3 children, the husband of Ignacia, the man of the home, comes to the door, but he's incoherent. He comes out, still stumbling, just bashed up in the head. And at this point, the police have to treat him as a first suspect. He's living. He's the father. We all know how many times is someone someone in the house, and all these crazy things happen. So they actually pin him to the ground and handcuff him and are treating him like a suspect. Thankfully, they did end up rushing Arturo to the hospital very quickly because they noted all of these injuries to his head. They were like, we gotta send him to the hospital. So thank you. That man had already been suffering for what sounds like over 24 hours. So officers enter the home and they immediately call homicide detectives. It is absolutely beyond clear, obviously, that there has been a homicide or 2 in this instance, unfortunately. As they began searching the home, the first thing they noticed was the couch in the living room, which was towards the back of the house, like the backyard wall that would share, was covered in blood. Not only that, but all the walls surrounding covered in blood. And also down the hallway, men's soiled clothing consistent with covered blood. Ignacia, the mother's body, would be found in between her doorway and their bedroom. There was even blood drag marks from the bed to the doorway. She had some abrasions on her, similar skull injuries, blunt force trauma, as they had just seen in the father. The back bedroom was that of Carla's, 10-year-old little Carla. She was found in the exact same way that her mother was. From the waist down, there was no clothing. The hallway, the flooring leading up to Carla's little bedroom was also full of blood, and even little girl's underwear. The unharmed boys, Christopher and Alejandro, would be sent pretty immediately to Child Haven. They would spend some time there. I'm not absolutely sure how long they had to spend there, but the police did not want anything to hinder their investigation. And with their dad being the first and only suspect at that moment, and also in the hospital and all that, they didn't want the kids to have contact with anyone. So imagine that. They just witnessed this horrific after scene, and then they're taken from their family and they can't talk to anyone in a child haven. Like, oh, I know it serves its purpose. I'm so grateful for that. But also those poor babies. I've got to tell you, thank goodness they ruled out very early on that Arturo could not have done this. This could not have been self-inflicted. The skull depressions, the circular skull depressions that were consistent with his wife and daughter that were also attacked, they could not have been done by himself. I'm assuming that has to do with like the amount of force, but you know, once he's in the hospital and whatever, and they're doing all their exams, they did rule him out very early on. Bless his heart, because he already went through so much. And gosh, I can imagine he didn't even probably know what was going on at the moment. But yes, thank goodness. So now we can get on to finding the real guy, the real person who committed this crime.
Were these random crimes? Was there any connection between Mr. Clay and his family?
There was not. We believe this was a stranger, random, savage act.
Ignacia and her daughter Carla's bodies would have been removed from the home the first day of investigating. They did do a chalk outline around both bodies to help their investigation further, but they got the bodies out for autopsy. However, investigators did spend 3 entire days investigating that home. Top to bottom, all around the sides, you name it, they were looking at it. Also want to note that there was a handprint found just around Yardy's body, around her leg area. This is going to be a key piece of evidence because it does help link later on who was responsible for these horrific crimes. But during their 3-day search, a police officer actually ended up walking the cinder block, you know, that separates one neighbor's yard from another. And he finds a hole down there. Now, y'all, I had a house like this before too, and there was holes down in there. So you could I lost my phone down in a hole one time. What the heck was I doing? I don't know, but that's what happened. But the police officer actually finds the murder weapon down in that cinder block, down in that wall. That murder weapon was consistent with the circular depressions within all the victims' heads, and it had blood from them on it as well. Huge find. Like, I wouldn't have even thought to do that, but they went hard, and I appreciate our team of investigators and police here. So now begs the question, who could do this? Why would anyone do this? I mean, literally, I have no idea why anyone does it ever. But was there a motive? Was there a problem? Was it personal? Pretty savage, you know? So police interview neighbors, clients, friends. Clients goes back to Arturo actually owned his own boxing gym. So they contacted people like that. Do you know if he has a problem with anyone? The only thing that they could find was that there was a discrepancy on and off, it seemed like, with the neighbors about the neighbors supposedly parking their vehicles in the Arturo's property. And so it caused a lot of tension. I don't know. To do all that just doesn't add up to me. But then again, and as we're going to find out, sometimes there's no motive at all. Zip, zero, no motive. The police did do their investigation. They did look into the neighbor as much as they felt was necessary, and they ruled them out. So we still don't know who did it, right? Detectives and police would spend 36 plus hours non-stop, checking out the home and following all sorts of evidence or any leads they could. And they actually decided a very smart move here to look into other crimes around the area around the same time, which led them to a 911 call from a 50-year-old woman named Lydia Newton. So Lydia was walking home from a party around 2 a.m. on April 15th, 2012. She's walking, a strange man asked her for money and cigarettes, but then she felt like he kept following her. So she calls her husband and she's like, I'm freaked out. He instructs her to call 911. Good. Yes. Okay. So she calls 911. Now, in this process, she did grab a rock by a nearby area. She grabbed a rock because she was like, I'm going to be prepared to defend myself in case something happens. Once on the phone with 911, Lydia told the 911 operator that she thought that the man had actually stopped following her and that she might be okay. Unfortunately, that was not the case. He grabbed Lydia, he pinned her down in a brush area nearby, and he began S-ing her. Okay, you get the gist? 911 was actually still on the call. The call hadn't hung up. Poor Lydia baby. She hit that man in the head with a rock. Of course she did. He was, as she said, threatening to kill her or trying to kill her by choking her as well. As soon as this man heard the sirens approaching from Lydia's 911 call, he ran off and he actually took her cell phone with him. Then he decided to make some calls to a couple friends. These are really crucial parts of the story here. Lydia's very unfortunate attack would later help link and find the man who murdered and attacked the Martinez family. One being that rock, okay, because it's got his DNA on it, his blood. Two, Lydia's cell phone. Now the defense would later try to discredit Lydia by bringing up her supposed past history, partying, drugs, all that kind of stuff. She also did state, allegedly, that she would never forget the man's face, ever. In the defense's opening statements, they would tell two pieces of evidence, which really did help their side of the story. One, Lydia did not want to take a rape kit. It was several hours later that a police officer actually convinced her to do so. But you guys, she'd already been violated in a massive way. She's freaking traumatized. Thankfully, I've never had to do one of those, but I've heard that they can be very violating feeling as well. And so she's not the only one who doesn't want to do a rape kit after they've already been violated. It has been said, and I don't know the legitimacy of it, but it has been said that Lydia did not want to take the rape kit because she had cocaine in her system. It's possible. It shouldn't hinder their investigation and, pinning the guy that did it. But secondly, the defense had another good point for what they were trying to do. Lydia did say, remember, that she would not forget the face of the man that attacked her. Okay? So they pull up a lineup of men, and she points out one and says, I'm 80% sure that's the man that attacked me. Turns out that lineup actually did not have the man that hurt her in it. They didn't know that at the time, but the defense brings it up like, well, if you could never forget the face, why'd you say you're 80% sure about this other guy? Why'd you say you're 80% sure about this other guy? I'm really sad to say that the man that did this to her would never be convicted of what he did. However, the savage attack on her and her sharing her story would actually be maybe the only way that we would later definitively convict the murderer and that intruded into the Martinez home. My heart goes out to her, and of course we all wish that never happened, but it was her rock, her phone, her statements, all of that led to the conviction of this more heinous crimes that happened that night. Life-ending even. I just mentioned that Lydia's phone would serve a purpose in this, and it did. The guy runs off with her phone. Calls his friends, like I said, okay? The police go ahead and get access to Lydia's phone history. They can do that. They're able to track down the numbers of who he called, so they make some calls themselves, and one of the people does tell them, yes, I did receive a call from my buddy named Junior. And they ask, is Junior his real name? And the person on the other end says, actually, Brian Clay. 22-year-old man, Brian Clay, they called them. At this time, the police did not have enough to go on to arrest him for murder and all the other things, or Lydia's, situation. They did discover that he had a felony child warrant out. So they were able to arrest him on that and detain him at least to buy some time. I did do as much digging as I could. I tried to find out about Brian's life prior history with arrest and all that fun stuff. And there's just nothing. There's basically nothing. Part of my research concluded that the child for that felony child abuse warrant, was actually Brian's own child. Brian would later state that he loves his child, but when asked, his child, a little girl, said she does not love her father. This case, shockingly, never got the attention it deserved. The families, I think these videos are important because we get to talk about people that should be here. And I'm going to get to that at the end of the video and share a little bit of what I could find about the family. But we can all learn from these cases in one way or another, and I am glad to bring it to you. Kind of. Bittersweet. Brian Clay was arrested 11 to 12 days after his evil spree. I want to give a huge thank you to our police here, all investigators, detectives, and so on that were involved in this case. It was truly horrendous. And they stopped at nothing, and they even kept certain things quiet when they had to not mess up the investigation. Once Brian was in custody, they were able to take DNA samples, some other physical evidence. And guess what was a freaking match? Not only to Lydia's rock in the head while he's attacking her, but also to the other bodily fluids and that handprint found at the Martinez residence. You can't deny it. It's science. It's science. What the heck? So yes, we got the guy. And what a dang relief. I love me some stories. Solved stories. I can't stand when it's cold. You get me all invested and I want to know what happened, who gone done it, and serve that justice, but that doesn't always happen. So, whew. You know, when I first heard about this case, I did not know all of these details. I had some basics, right? There's a little bit of information that freaked me out enough, but moving forward to know who did it and that justice was finally served, yeah. Brian would be sentenced to 2 life sentences in the state of Nevada for the essay and murders of both Carla and Ignacia Martinez, as well as the attempted murder with a deadly weapon. I'm gonna link it all down below. You'll see it, some arrest stuff, but he did get charged with that whole Martinez thing. Nothing drives me crazier than the fact that Brian can't seem to come up with a motive. He states that he does not remember. He has no recollection. No reason for why he did it. There's never a good reason, but no reason. I felt insane, you know, I always had these sick dreams of doing it. Nothing. I just want to take a quick look at this clip right here where the judge calls BS at that boy.
This whole thing it's not complete, it's not done yet. We all know that. We keep fighting, we can laugh at it, you know, instead of, you know, it doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound perfect, but yeah, let's laugh at it.
Maybe you can't face it, maybe psychologically you've pushed it a little further back because you can't live with the horror of what you did, but I think you know more. I am convinced beyond any doubt that you committed the crimes based on the totality of the evidence. And you can't just say, I went to sleep one night and I woke up the next morning exactly the same place, exactly the same clothes and everything, and I have no idea what happened. At some point in the quiet of your cell in the Nevada prison where you will live until you die, you're going to have to face responsibility and accountability yourself.
Good job, Judge. There's a lot of people involved during this trial that wanted the death penalty for Brian. I'm happy with the sentencing, but I'm not the family. But I do want you to check out these 2 clips real quick. Just watch as the family reacts to hearing the sentencing that he's not getting the death penalty.
Deliberations are private to you as an audience. So that's what collectively decide for the trial phase and the penalty phase. So as I said, anybody who writes to talk to you after the penalty, don't want to talk to you after the excitement. That being said, it is very valuable for attorneys to talk to jurors after a trial is over, and just the attorneys, to kind of get a sense of what you thought about the process. They can't ask you about the specifics of your deliberation time, but learning what you thought about everything from the time you came in and filled out a questionnaire, to the jury selection process, to how a trial is presented.
I truly think that the aunt of the Martinez children said it best in this clip here.
Their family members today not happy with this sentence.
I don't really think this is called justice. I wonder what the jury needed. What they needed to go to a different path. If it's not this, what could it be? They are waiting for something worse than this?
Bless her heart. I mean, yeah. What more does someone have to do to get the maximum sentencing? How is this a thing? Is this not like the worst? You killed not 1 but 2 people, tried to kill 3. All the other crazy, nasty things this man did. Like, ooh, the frustration, the heartbreak for that family. Like I said, I personally am not unhappy with the sentencing. I'm not gonna talk about what happens after life, whatever, but I do know one thing, and I have heard it, and y'all have heard it too. Men, criminals, whatever, that are not kind to women, they're in there for hurting a woman or a child especially, they don't do well in prison. The other inmates mess with them. So I can promise you that man will never have another good day in his life. Not another good day in his life. Ha ha ha. Sorry, not sorry. You caused this for yourself. I do want to say though, respectfully, Letitia White, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Brian's mother, did take the stand during trial. She didn't say he didn't do it. She wasn't asking for much. She just did not want her son to have the death penalty. And as a mother, a parent, we can all understand that. At the very least, please don't kill my kid. Like, even if they've gone done like the worst things ever, the love a parent has for their children is unconditional. So I feel for her so much. And it's the crazy thing is it doesn't just affect the family that was victimized, then it victimizes the family of the criminal as well. It's just so sad. It's insane how far that toxicity, that kind of thing reaches and then affects more people, including his own mother. I was not able to find much about the Martinez's life prior to this, but I do want to share a couple things just to give you a little insight. Carla, the 10-year-old, loved gymnastics, and the family was very supportive, even had a balance beam in the backyard so she could practice what she loved at home. Christopher, the eldest brother, the teacher that he told about what had happened, she actually had Carla in her class the year before, so now she's got a couple of years with these kids, right? And she reported that the mother was always around, dropping the kids off, showing up to events. And I think as a parent, what your number one job is, what you want to be remembered for above all else, is that you were a loving parent, and that she was. Arturo, the father, was an electrician and owned his own boxing gym. Whether he still does those things or not, I don't know. It is said that he remarried, so I'm very happy for him if that's the case. I think he is massively resilient, and my gosh, the most forgiving man I've ever heard of. And that's where I want to play this clip. I can't believe it, y'all, but he is so sweet.
Who says faith helped him survive.
I can say I forgive this guy. I pray for him every day, and as a Catholic, as a Christian, as a apostolic Roman, that's all I can do.
I couldn't say the same. I'm not even directly at all involved with this, and I cannot say the same. That clip was only a year after, or maybe it was a year after the sentencing. Something like that. On a happy note, I am so grateful that Arturo did survive the crazy damage to his head, and that he has his faith and all the things to keep him going, and that he was able to continue raising his boys. Now, this is 10, almost 11 years ago as the time that I'm making this video, so one of the boys is 20-ish, and the other would be 14 or so. But bless that family. Just bless them. If you liked this video, if you found it interesting, if you have questions, if you want to have a little dialogue with me, please comment down below. Make sure to like, share, but subscribe and hit that ring notification bell, because when I put out another one, I want you all on board. I want to share these stories. I would love for this channel to take off and we can talk about these people's lives, ways to be more safe ourselves, you name it. You know, I love doing makeup, and like I said, I do nails. Like, who knows what can come from this, but this is my passion, talking about true crime, getting these stories out there, and it just takes a couple clicks and stuff from you to get that going to help me out. Lastly, I do want to share that I am intending and putting all my good feelers out there that I can make a part 2 of this video. Why? Because I'm still mad that he didn't give us a motive. He hasn't said anything. And that drives me crazy. He's got nothing to lose. He's in prison, 2 life sentences, no possibility of parole. I don't know if I mentioned that, but no possibility of parole. You ain't getting out, honey. So, listen, yes, I did find his inmate information. Yes, I did mail off a little letter to him. Very respectful, of course. I want to know more about his childhood. I want anything he can tell us more, because it's really frustrating. It's not understanding. So we'll see. Brian Clay hopefully gives us some information and I can make part 2, and I promise you I will get on it that day and your butts will be watching it. But if you don't hit subscribe and the ring notification, you won't see it. I appreciate all of you so much for taking your time to watch this video, take this deep dive with me down this crazy story. It has been a grueling but rewarding process. Until next time, stay safe, lock your doors, and have a lovely week. DeVille out.